All right, so first up, we've got the movies at the theater tier list. So this is going to be all 9 movies that I saw at the theater in October, and I'm just going to rank them in the tiers of S, A, B plus, B, C, and D. So for some clarification, why there's a B and a B plus category. B plus are the movies that I can't quite put like a stamp on to say that they're great films, but I particularly enjoyed them and like much more so than a typical B film. So that's why I've got that category. But otherwise, those kind of correspond to masterpiece, great, good, fine, and bad for types of movies or categories of movies. So first up, we have Lyle Lyle Crocodile. And this was a film that I got to see in Dolby Cinema, so that was kind of the one redeeming thing about the film. But overall, this was a very hard film to watch. I did not really enjoy it if I wasn't. Yeah, it was one that I kind of wanted to walk out on. It wasn't a very good film for me. I imagine it would be entertaining for as like a family film, but to me being in my mid 20s, it just wasn't a film for me. So I thought this was a bad film. Actually, on top of that, I think kind of the messages that the film tells I didn't really agree with a whole lot. So I also don't know that I wouldn't recommend it as a family film either. There's a lot better stuff out there than this. Next up, we have Amsterdam. I was actually looking forward to this one just based off of the cast list. It's just a star-studded cast, but it, despite like tackling some somewhat like some very interesting like subject matter and story material, and it's stuff that you think should be important and should make for a good movie. It just was kind of meh at the end of the day, and it goes in the C category for me. It was fine. It just didn't really do much as a film, in my opinion. So that one goes in the C category. Next up, we have Halloween Ends. And this is where we kind of go. I bounce between having a fairly objective and a fairly subjective list. I think it kind of has to be both. But based off of how much fun I had in this film and how much it examines the characters, I think I put this in the C category initially just because I'm like, I don't know that I can say this is a good film, but I was actually entertained. And well, I don't know. I think I ended up giving this a C plus, and I don't want to do like a plus for every single category, but this was a fine film that was a lot more entertaining than it had any right to be, I think. But it's still not a movie that I would necessarily recommend. Up next, we have Tar. This was one that I was looking forward to and hoping it would be really good, and I thought it was great. It's definitely an A tier movie. I think Kate Blanchett knocked the role out of the park. I think she's a shot definitely of getting nominated, although for her acting. But I know that list keeps getting filled up with other actresses. So we'll see. But I think she certainly has a shot. And I really liked just the subject matter of the film, focusing on music and an orchestra and musicians. It's right up my alley for the sort of stuff that I'm interested in. Next up, we have Ticket to Paradise. This was, I think I originally gave this one a B, but there again, I kind of go back and forth. I think the movie was entertaining, and so if I was rating it subjectively, I would definitely put it in the B category for how much fun I had. But it's really only that way because of the actors or of the leads in the film. We've got Julia Roberts and George Clooney, who just have a lot of charisma and they're a lot of fun to watch. But the movie as a whole was, I think, just kind of fine. It didn't do a whole lot. So it was. I'm gonna actually put that one in the fine category. The I don't know. Well, okay. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna make this a more subjective ranking because I think that's what matters at the end of the day. I don't have to kind of think what's generally good and whatnot. This is gonna be something that, at least for the lower categories, if I'm entertained, it gets a B. That's what it's gonna be. I am a little bit more. I take objectivity a little bit more into account if I'm going into the A and S tier. But for these lower ones, it's very much what is my emotion coming out of the film. If I want to leave the film, it goes into the D category, which was the case for Lyle Lyle Crocodile. If I'm fairly disinterested by and kind of bored by the end of the film, then it's a fine. And if I was entertained, I'm gonna give it a B. So that's where we're at. And yeah, Ticket to Paradise and Halloween Ends, while they weren't like necessarily objectively good movies, I was entertained and I enjoyed myself throughout it. Next up, we have Black Adam. This one, I don't know, but this movie's been kind of in the works for a while, and it finally came out. And I had my expectations kind of checked at the door. I didn't have super high expectations, but it still kind of fell below the ones that I had. I thought there were good elements in the film, but it just feels very much like rinse and repeat sort of superhero film, and it didn't seem to do a whole lot of new. There were a couple of characters that I really liked, but we didn't get to see a whole lot of them. I would have loved like an individual film on some of those characters, but I found the film fairly unengaging overall. I thought the villain was very straightforward, and yeah. So this one, I really wasn't all that entertained. There were a couple entertaining moments, but overall it was pretty middle of the road and meh for me. Next up, we have Pray for the Devil. Here again, I'm not huge on horror films, so this is my subjective ranking, and this didn't do enough for me to think of it as other than a fine movie. I think it has some interesting like thoughts that it puts forth that you can reflect on. But and like I don't know, if you're into horror, you might like it. There's definitely jump scares and things like that. But I need a bit more than just a horror movie to be horror. I need good characters that I can connect with, and this just didn't quite do it for me. Next up, we have Till. This was a really good film. I absolutely love this film. I thought that the story was very interesting. It's not one that I was familiar with, and I really liked how it's a story being told from the point of view of the mother of the victim, and that makes it just so powerful of a film. I don't, other than maybe having like a little bit of a slow pace to begin, but it gets out of it's very, very much like the first maybe 20 minutes. After that, I thought the pacing was great. I can't really knock this film for anything, and I do think it's a masterpiece. I highly recommend it. I think everyone should go see it. And just the acting by the main character, I apologize, her name slips my mind, but I think she'll definitely get nominated for an acting award come award season, and I think she just knocked it out of the park. So lastly, we have Call Jane, and this one is this. I thought I had higher hopes for this film, so it came in below where I thought it would, especially with kind of the subject matter that it's tackling. I was expecting it to be more in the A category, but it did a lot of good things, and I was entertained. I appreciated learning something. It's again not a story that I was familiar with, but I'm happy to be familiar with now. And I think the main thing that kept it from being higher was I just didn't quite feel the connection I was looking for to the characters. But good acting overall, and yeah, solid film. So that's my tier ranking of all the movies that I saw in October. If you have your own list, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Or if you just have a favorite movie or two, if you don't want to give a whole list, by all means. Yeah, I love hearing about what other people are watching, and whatever your subjective list is. I think depending on the month, I kind of bounce between subjectivity and objectivity on these, but I think movies are very subjective at the end of the day, and if you have a more objective approach, there's nothing wrong with that too.